Well, here we are again, having that schizophrenic Christmas that we have every 7 or so years. What do we do with Christmas on a Sunday? On Christmas Day, you're supposed to celebrate Jesus' taking on flesh and being born in a stable in Bethlehem. But every Sunday is a celebration of Jesus rising from the dead on Easter morning. So what are we to do? Many churches around the world go with their normal Christmas schedule today. One service, somewhere around 10 o'clock. Some churches, you will find, cancel services altogether. Because, for heaven's sakes, who wants to be sitting on hard pews in church? It's Christmas, for heaven's sake. There are parades to watch. There are presents to open. Well, here's the official ruling from God. Sunday trumps everything, even Christmas. Because without Sunday, who cares about Christmas? If Jesus had not risen from the dead and proven that death cannot hold us either, who cares about his birth? But he did rise from the dead. He did prove that death cannot hold us. And that, retrospectively, is what makes his birth so important. See, you and I, we are bound in sinful flesh. We are born into these chains because we inherit original sin from our parents, and they from their parents, and so forth and so on, all the way back to the Garden of Eden, where Adam and Eve chose to eat the forbidden fruit so that they could be like God. Just as a slave is a slave if his parents are slaves, we too are born into the slavery of sin. It has nothing to do with what we have done or what we have failed to do. It is simply our lot in this world. And don't get all haughty and self-righteous. Don't act as though you would never have had this problem if it had been you in the Garden of Eden. That's the age-old confirmation class position. Why do I have to get punished because of what Adam and Eve did? It wasn't me who ate the forbidden fruit. Well, first, you are not punished for what Adam and Eve did. Jesus was punished for what Adam and Eve did. Yet we do live in a broken world because of the choices that Adam and Eve made. But you would have done it no differently. We all would have done the same thing. And if we think otherwise, here's a simple test for you. Ready? Stop sinning. I mean the actual sin. The sin that you're able to control. Just stop. Thought, word, and deed. You won't do it. No one ever has. It does not take us long at all before we start thinking to ourselves that we probably know a little better than God. Oh, none of us would be so crass as to say it out loud, but hey, who says that we can't live our lives however we want to? We are free Americans, right? Who is God to dictate to us what we can do and cannot do, or say, or think? And therein lies our problem. We, like Adam and Eve, try to be God. We ignore what he clearly says to us, and we do what we want, and we wonder why things fall apart. Even when all of our problems stem from the Garden of Eden, where we were trying to be like God, we turn right around and try to be like God again. We look at our situation enslaved by sin, and we decide we will free ourselves. Now, God has already told us that his gift to us is freedom from that sin. But we try to do it on our own anyway. We try it all different types of ways. Some try to live perfect lives and deny themselves every comfort. Some just give themselves over to all the pleasures in the world, just out of the frustration of trying not to. And they just hope that hell isn't too bad. There are people who make up teachings, things like reincarnation, where you get to come back and do it all again over and over and over again. Many, especially in developed nations, try intellectualizing faith. They figure if they can explain it, they can control it. Others try to emotionalize faith, thinking that if you just feel strongly enough about sin, well, then you'll be able to conquer it. Obviously, I'm only touching on a few of the many ways that human beings have tried to control, justify, rationalize, and absolve their own sin. You know, that's why people are turned off by church. They come to churches, Christian and otherwise, and they hear all types of methods of salvation, all types of explanations of the human condition. They say some words, sing some songs, and go home with no real answers. And I think the saddest part is that the vast majority of people don't really expect any more than that. They come and they do their penance as though sitting on a pew for an hour and throwing $10 in the plate will appease an angry God. They do their thing and they leave, but they are generally unfulfilled, empty, and guilty. The reason why so many people are disappointed in religion is they are seeking that which it does not offer, or they are following spurious paths created by human beings that will never lead anywhere worthwhile. We have to get to this reality. Flesh is what chained us to sin. The fleshly choices of human beings choosing to sin is what damned us. So, if flesh chained us to sin, only flesh can free us from sin. And the problem is, we cannot produce the flesh to free us. Only absolutely pure and holy flesh sacrificed in our place will break the chains, and we have no ability to create that pure and holy flesh. We can clean up our lives, we can deny ourselves, we can make up inventive excuses about our choices, but finally, my friends, a rag is a rag. It's like my favorite t-shirt that Donya hates. I can wash it, I can iron it, I can even mend the holes. But finally, when all is said and done, it's still just a ratty old piece of cloth that's really only fit for a dust rag. No matter how we dress our sinful flesh up, it's only fit for damnation. In the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with God, and the Word was God. And the Word became flesh and dwelt among us. And we have seen His glory. Glory as of the only Son from the Father, full of grace and truth. The Word became flesh. The second person of the Holy Trinity, Jesus Christ Himself, took on human flesh in order that there might be flesh holy enough to free us from the chains to which our sinful flesh had ensnared us. And only faith in Christ frees us from sin. And by faith we do not mean intellectual understanding. The devil has that. We mean a deep and abiding relationship with Christ. We mean studying His Word, which is why we offer Bible studies every week, all year long. We mean learning from Him in the Scriptures, which is why we have the hymns that we have and preach the sermons that we preach. We mean literally dining on His body and blood and physically receiving Him into our bodies. And over time, this regular reception of Word and Sacrament will strengthen our faith, and the stronger our faith, the freer we become. The chains of the old sinful flesh cannot withstand the righteous and holy flesh of Jesus. By flesh we were bound, and by flesh we are free.